This is the part where you run.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 best horror movies of 2023 so far.
Yeah! Jamesy!
For this list, we're looking at the best films that have made us scream in the first half of this year. Even if a film opened elsewhere in 2022, we'll be including them as long as they had their North American release in the calendar year 2023. Are you horrified we left off one of your favorites? Scream about it in the comments. Number 10, Knock at the Cabin.
Hello in there. My name's Leonard and I'm here with some associates of mine. Can you open the door, please?
M. Night Shyamalan has certainly had a rather up and down last few years, which is certainly better than his run of films previous. But offerings like Knock at the Cabin prove he can still tap into his early career charm.
Never watched this show before, but I like it. The characters, and they seem curious and good. I get the sense that it explores or teaches empathy and tolerance, and it's just lovely.
While the titular setting is exceedingly familiar in the horror genre, it's the plot mechanics that set it apart. Specifically, it sees a family of 3 being prodded by a group of strangers into sacrificing one of them so humanity may live on. Don't worry, no spoilers here. But just know that Shyamalan smartly allows his powerhouse cast to do the emotional heavy lifting. Dave Bautista in particular is excellent as a gentle giant with a grave task.
Maybe the truth is that the end was happening long before we got to this cabin. And what we're seeing now isn't the fireworks. It's just the final flickering sparks.
Number 9, Skinamarink. Skinamarink is definitely cut from a different kind of cloth, something that will test many viewers. But in a horror landscape that's constantly having to reinvent itself, it fits right in. Made for a paltry $15,000, the movie is about a couple of kids who awake in the middle of the night to discover things are disappearing in their house, including their father and means of exit. With a premise like that, and already it's tapping into a kind of aberrant childhood nightmare, like an irrational fear coming to life. We can all remember feeling like this in our youth, and while the movie doesn't always make sense, we can't really say it needs to either. Number 8, Scream 6.
You and Tara better watch your backs.
You better watch yours.
Lots of slasher franchises have tried to shake things up with a change of scenery, but while it's often played like a gimmick, Scream 6 is the exception that actually makes it work.
You got a problem here, guy?
Taking the action to New York City, the movie follows the survivors of last year's requel as a more vicious Ghostface emerges to take a bite out of the Big Apple.
Now I see something red.
While this is the first outing without original final girl Sidney Prescott, it's the returning young cast that really shines here. Not to be outdone though, the thrills and kills remain top-notch, as the set pieces really take advantage of the urban setting.
Can you hold, please?
Huh?
Forget the 90s. It looks like Scream may be finding its glory days in the 2020s. Number 7, The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster. Now more than ever, it feels like classic horror stories are being shrewdly adapted for the modern day, and this one is no exception.
Your daughter has a very disturbing obsession.
What obsession?
Death.
The Angry Black Girl and Her Monster lifts from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to tell a tale of loss, rebellion, and most importantly, death. It sees a teen genius named Vicaria give a new definition to mad scientist by resurrecting her brother after he's killed in gun violence. As you probably guessed, he doesn't come back the same, and that's when the terror kicks up a notch.
He's here.
We're currently living in a golden age of socially conscious horror, and this one has enough thematic and emotional resonance to engage on all levels, on top of making you scream.
Death is a disease. There's a cure.
Number 6, Sick.
There's somebody in the house.
Where's your phone?
The COVID-19 pandemic was arguably the most earth-shattering event of the 21st century so far. But Hollywood has largely abstained from incorporating it for multiple reasons. And when they do, the results have been mixed at best. Sick isn't like those movies.
Oh my God, are you all right? What's going on? He's trying to kill me.
Just one moment.
Who's that man? I don't know.
Where's your mask?
This Peacock original is set in the horror show that was April 2020, as two friends look to quarantine at a remote lake house. But the outside world follows them in the worst way possible. Real-world commentary aside, this is just a solid home invasion film, complete with gnarly kills and effective jumps. And if the topicality doesn't bother you, you will be sure to have a good time with it. Number 5, The Blackening.
The Blackening?
Whoa! Sam Crow Monopoly.
Shit probably runs on racism.
The only straight-up horror comedy on this list, The Blackening, you'll be happy to know, is pretty riotous in the latter regard. Also playing on the cabin in the woods setup. This one subverts genre cliches through an alternative lens, as a group of friends is put through a twisted game that measures their blackness. While the thrills are all well and good, they're really just an excuse to crack wise and roast the usual trappings we're familiar with. And in that regard, bullseye.
We need a plan.
Don't say it.
Don't you dare.
Don't say this, don't say it.
We have to split up.
More than most slashers, The Blackening relies heavily on the energy of its ensemble cast, which has chemistry and personality to spare. Definitely one of the funnier horror movies in recent memory.
One black woman gotta save everyone all the damn time!
Number 4, Infinity Pool. Brandon Cronenberg obviously comes from body horror royalty thanks to his father, David Cronenberg. But if Infinity Pool is any indication, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
It's time for you to shed that disgusting larval mind of yours and find out what kind of a creature you really are. Bring the dog.
Starring Alexander Skarsgård and Mia Goth, the film sees the former play a struggling writer on vacation in a fictional country. However, he soon comes to realize that the government outside the resort is taking part in some horrific practices. Brilliant in its setup, the film will leave you thinking about the relationship between Western affluence and tourist destinations. It isn't for everyone, but anyone looking for the intellectually bizarre will certainly find it here. Number 3, Megan. Okay, everyone pause the video so you can do the Megan dance. We'll wait.
What are you doing?
Beyond the movie's genius marketing and social media approach, Megan simply has a lot going for it as a fun cinematic ride. For one thing, its titular cybernetic villain has a design and affectation that's wholly and flawlessly realized.
You need to learn some manners, Brandon. You know what happens to bad boys that don't mind their manners? They grow up to be bad men. Are you listening to me, Brandon?
Furthermore, its approach to AI is surprisingly clever, succeeding in places where a lot of recent horror offerings have failed. And while we can definitely feel when the movie wants to go R, what it lacks in blood, it more than makes up for in tension and thrills.
What are you?
I've been asking myself that same question.
If the future of AI looks anything like Megan, we, for one, welcome our new robot overlords. Number 2, Huesera, the Bone Woman. If you thought Infinity Pool dabbled in body horror, try Huesera, the Bone Woman.
¿Qué haces afuera?
Creo que se metió alguien.
¿Cómo que se metió alguien?
This Spanish-language horror flick has the innate ability to make you squirm, as it centers on a pregnant woman whose journey, let's just say, takes a turn for the uncomfortable. If ever there were a horror movie primed for social commentary, it's this one. Huesera brilliantly portrays the sometimes suffocating effect pregnancy can have on people, especially when motherhood stems from cultural expectations or patriarchal influences. Moreover, there's actually some really potent queer themes baked in as well, making for an endlessly fascinating watch.
Tú eres la que lleva años haciéndose como la que sí maduró, la que
Escogió el camino correcto, la vida correcta. La neta no tienes ni puta idea de lo que quieres. Y tú sí, ¿no?
Currently sitting at 99% on Rotten Tomatoes, it has more than earned that mark. Before we unveil our top pick, here are some honorable mentions. Missing. This screen life thriller keeps us glued to the screen.
Hey Siri. Call 911.
The Boogeyman. Beware the thing that goes bump in the night.
There's no such thing as monsters. You need to grow up. I'm serious, Sawyer. I need to be alone.
Beau is Afraid. Ari Aster's latest effort is singular to say the least.
I am so sorry for what your daddy passed down to you.
Cocaine Bear. We think the title pretty much sums it up.
Bam, speed up!
The Outwaters. This found footage horror movie isn't like anything you've seen before. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1. Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. Who would have thought that this silly old bear would make for such a great slasher villain? Not Disney, not A.A. Milne, and not us. Not then, and not now either.
Pooh, you need to help me, please. There's something wrong with Piglet. He just killed my wife, please.
Okay, on to our real number 1 pick. Number 1. Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Rise indeed.
Mommy's with the maggots now.
While the franchise has been coming and going since the early 80s, its track record has been consistently solid. So imagine our unsurprised satisfaction to learn that this one lives up to that legacy and then some.
Ellie?
Unlike our first entry, this one largely abandons the cabin-in-the-woods setting entirely, trading it in for a dilapidated LA apartment complex. But if there's one thing we learned while watching it, it's that Evil Dead is still Evil Dead as long as there are some possessed folks, a creepy book, and lots of blood. On none of these aspects does Rise fall short, delivering a non-stop thrill ride that's anything but predictable. In short, it is groovy.
Come get some.
Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.